There is a woman in Minneapolis who slept in a stock 2003 Dodge Caravan through 2 full winters. No heater, no insulation, no build, because she wasn't doing van life. She was homeless. When she finally sold that van, the buyer crawled underneath expecting rot and found dry, clean metal. Meanwhile, $40,000 cedar lined conversions get gutted after a single wet season. Their owners tearing out black, moldy insulation, wondering what they did wrong. The difference is a set of rules about water that homeless van dwellers pass around like survival knowledge, because for them, a moldy van isn't a renovation project. It's losing their home. Tonight, you get their 10 best moisture hacks, plus the 5 mistakes that destroy more vans than rust ever will. One of those mistakes feels completely responsible while it soaks your walls. Another one quietly puts a full gallon of invisible water into your air, and it kills people every single winter. Now, you might be watching because you live in a vehicle. You might be thinking about it or building one out, or you might just want to know how a person survives winter in a metal box with nothing. Either way, it all starts with a number that surprises everyone. Every night while you sleep, your body releases about a liter of water into the air around you. A full quart, 2 people, and it's closer to 2 liters. In a house, that moisture disappears into thousands of cubic feet of air. In a van, it has nowhere to go. It soaks into your mattress, runs down the inside of your windows, and creeps behind your wall panels. Where that liter ends up each night decides whether your van lives or dies. So let's start with a hack that feels completely wrong. Hack number 1. Sleep with cross ventilation, even in winter. When the temperature drops, your instinct is to close everything, and that instinct is exactly what beginners obey. But a closed van with a sleeping person inside is basically a plastic bag with a humidifier running in it. The trick the woman in Minneapolis swore by, the one every experienced dweller repeats, is 2 openings, not 1. Crack a window near your feet and open the roof vent above your head, or crack 2 windows on opposite corners of the van. Warm, damp air rises and leaves through the high opening, and cooler, dry air gets pulled in low. That slow, constant exchange carries your breath outside instead of letting it settle on the cold glass and steel around you. One cracked window on its own does almost nothing, because air needs a way in and a way out to actually move, and you will not freeze from a finger-width gap. You'll actually sleep warmer, because dry air holds heat around your body far better than damp air does. A damp sleeping bag steals heat from you all night long, but ventilation only removes the vapor still floating in the air. The water that already landed on your glass overnight needs to leave a different way, and that brings us to the 3-minute habit that separates a dry van from a rotting one. Hack number 2. The morning wipe down. Walk past any van someone has lived in for years and look at the windshield on a cold morning. If it's clear, that person wipes. Every experienced dweller keeps a dedicated microfiber towel and a cheap rubber squeegee within arm's reach of the bed. First thing after waking, before coffee, they squeegee the windshield, the side glass, and any wet metal, and wring the towel out into a jug or straight out the door. One man who spent 5 years homeless in a Chevy Express actually kept an old milk jug for this, and he'd wring his towel into it every morning just to see the number. Most nights, over a liter. He said watching that jug fill up taught him more about his van than any video ever could. Because think about what happens if you skip the wipe. The sun comes up, the van warms, and every drop on that glass evaporates right back into the air, where it waits for the next cold night to condense again, except this time maybe into your mattress instead of onto the glass. The same liter of water can cycle through your van for a week if you never remove it. Wiping physically exports it. Hang the towel outside to dry, and you've just pumped a liter of water out of your home. But breathing is only your second biggest source of moisture. The biggest one happens on purpose, every single evening, right around dinner time. Hack number 3. Cooking discipline. A single pot of boiling pasta water can push close to half a liter of steam into your van in 15 minutes. That's a full night's worth of breathing, dumped into the air before you've eaten a bite. Long-term dwellers handle cooking 3 ways. First, lids on everything, always, which also cuts your fuel use roughly in half. Second, the door stays open or the vent fan runs on high while anything is boiling. No exceptions, even in January. Third, whenever the weather allows, the stove moves outside entirely, onto the tailgate, a folding table, or a park picnic bench. Coffee, oatmeal, canned soup, all of it steams. People who cook inside a sealed van every night are running a sauna in their bedroom and then acting surprised when the ceiling drips. There's a reason the classic homeless van setup is a single burner stove that lives in a milk crate by the back doors. In a van, the kitchen and the bedroom are the same room, and the bedroom needs to stay dry. But steam isn't the only water you carry inside. Some of it walks in through the door with you, hanging off your shoulders. Hack number 4. The wet gear quarantine. This one separates people who've done 1 winter from people who've done 10. When When you come in from the rain, that soaked jacket draped over the passenger seat is going to dry, and every gram of water in it is going straight into your van's air, and from there, into your bedding and your walls. Experienced dwellers never let wet things dry loose inside. Wet coats, wet boots, wet towels go into a plastic tote with a lid, into a milk crate under the van, or onto a line strung between the mirror and a fence outside. If something absolutely has to dry inside, it dries directly in front of an open window with air moving past it, so the moisture has an exit route. A pair of soaked work boots left on the floor overnight can fog every window in the van by morning. The rule is simple. Water that came in as liquid leaves as liquid. It never gets promoted to vapor inside your living space. Now, the next hack involves a piece of gear that most van dwellers already own. Used one way, it's one of the best condensation tools you can have. Used the other way, it grows mold a foot from your face while you sleep. Hack number 5. Window covers. Used the right way. Pressed tight against the glass at night, a foil-faced reflective cover keeps the inside surface of that window warmer, and warm surfaces don't collect condensation the way cold, bare glass does. It also keeps your body heat in, but if the cover fits loosely, moist air slips behind it, hits the cold glass, and condenses in a hidden pocket you never see. So the covers go on snug at night, and every single morning they come down, so the glass behind them can be wiped and the cover itself can dry. A window cover stored damp, rolled up in a cubby, turns into a mold farm, inches from your pillow, tight at night, off and dry by day. That rhythm is the whole trick. And by the way, keeping the van dry is only half of surviving vehicle life on a small budget. The other half is money, and later in this video, I'll show you where the best of those tricks live, the ones about parking free and flying under the radar. But first, lift up your mattress, because the worst mold in your van isn't on any window. It's growing in the one place nobody ever looks. Hack number 6. Get air under your mattress. Lift the mattress in a neglected van, and you'll usually find the same ugly surprise, a black spotted ring of mold on the plywood underneath. One man in Oregon found exactly that under a $900 memory foam mattress he'd owned for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Your body pushes warm moisture downward all night. It passes through the foam, hits the cold platform, and condenses right where you can't see it. The fix costs nearly nothing. An air gap. Some people screw wooden slats across the platforms. Some lay down plastic mesh underlay made for boat bunks. The genuinely broke version, and it works, is cutting pool noodles lengthwise and laying them in rows under the mattress so air can flow through the channels. And the daily habit that beats all the hardware practiced by just about everyone who's survived years in a vehicle is standing the mattress up against the wall for 10 minutes while you drink your morning coffee. Let the underside breathe, let the platform air out, then drop it back down. A mattress that gets flipped daily can last for years. One that never moves can be growing mold within a single damp month, but even perfect habits can't reach everywhere. Every van has dead zones where air simply refuses to go, and water finds every one of them. Hack number 7. Moisture traps in the dead corners. The glove box, the cab overhang, the back corners of cabinets, under the driver's seat. That's where cheap moisture absorbers earn their keep. The workhorse is calcium chloride. The white crystals sold in tubs at any dollar store as damp traps for closets. The crystals pull water straight out of the air and collect it as liquid in the bottom of the tub. One dweller in Spokane put a $6 tub under his passenger seat as an experiment and found half a cup of water in it a week later. Water that would otherwise have been inside his walls. Long-timers refill generic tubs with bulk crystals instead of buying new ones. The step-up is a rechargeable silica box you dry out on a stove or at a laundromat outlet and reuse for years. And the free version is the sock trap, a long sock filled with silica cat litter, tied off and tossed in the glove box. Bake the litter dry in a pan when it's saturated and it goes right back to work. None of this replaces ventilation, but for the corners air can't reach, these little traps are the difference between musty and dry. If you're finding this useful, hit subscribe, because this channel covers street-tested survival knowledge like this every single week. Now, everything so far has been about moving water out. The next hack is about heat, and it sounds like burning money until you understand the physics. Hack number 8. Dry heat with the vent cracked open. Running your heater while a window is open sounds wasteful, and it's exactly what experienced cold weather dwellers do on purpose. Not all heat is equal in a van. Diesel heaters and wood stoves produce dry heat because their combustion exhausts outside. That dry heat warms the air. Warm air soaks up moisture like a sponge, and with a vent crack, that moisture-loaded air flows out and gets replaced by cold air that dries as it warms. Run the same heater in a sealed van, and you've made warm, wet air, which condenses even harder the moment the heater shuts off and the walls go cold. A retired machinist who spent 3 winters in a Ford Econoline up in Montana called it flushing the van. 1 hour of heat with the roof vent cracked in the evening, and his windows stayed clear all night. If all you have is a hot water bottle in the bed, the principle still holds, and the vent stays cracked. Heat plus exit route. Heat without an exit route is just a slower way to soak your walls, but you can vent right, wipe right, and heat right, and still wake up with water running down every window because of a decision you made before you ever shut the engine off. Hack number 9. Park like your van's life depends on it, because it does. Cold, damp air is heavy, and it pools in low ground. Park next to a river, in a valley bottom, or in a grassy hollow, and you'll wake up inside a fog pocket with both sides of every window dripping. Experienced dwellers park on high ground, on pavement or gravel, rather than damp grass. And whenever possible, they aim the windshield east. There's a practical reason. Morning sun hitting the glass warms the biggest cold surface in the van and evaporates overnight condensation for free before it can soak in. Then there's the midday flush, a habit you'll notice in any parking lot where people live in their vehicles. Around noon, when the air is at its warmest and driest, both doors swing open for 10 minutes and the whole van trades its air. 10 minutes, once a day, replaces damp air with the driest air that day will offer. It costs nothing except remembering. Now, before hack number 10 and the 5 mistakes, the thing I promised you earlier. Staying dry is half of surviving van life on a small budget. The other half is money, and the best money tricks, the ones about parking overnight without paying, using facilities, and staying invisible, are the kind of thing I can only lay out properly in writing. So I put all of them in an ebook called The Van Life Savings Manual. Whether you're living in a van right now, still thinking about it, or you know someone out there in one tonight, it's what I wish someone had handed me at the start. The link is in the description below, or just scan the QR code on your screen. Now, hack number 10, the quiet secret behind the driest vans you will ever step into. Hack number 10, constant micro airflow with 12-volt fans. Condensation needs still air. Water vapor settles onto a cold surface when the air sitting against that surface stops moving, which is why the failure points in every van are the still corners, behind the cabinets, along the walls beside the bed, the back doors. The fix is small, computer-style fans wired to the house battery. They sip so little power that people run them off a single small solar panel around the clock. One fan angled across the windshield, one pushing air along the wall behind the bed, maybe one inside a closed cabinet with a hole drilled for flow. The air in the van never fully stops moving, so vapor never gets the calm moment it needs to settle in. Combine that with cabinet doors left cracked open an inch overnight, another old-timer habit, and the hidden zones that quietly rot most vans stay as dry as the middle of the room. Total cost, about the price of a pizza. It's the closest thing to a set and forget solution in this entire video. So those are the 10 hacks. Now for the part that might save your van outright, the 5 mistakes. Because most vans don't get ruined by what people fail to do. They get ruined by things people do on purpose, thinking they're helping. The first one is the mistake I warned you about at the start, the one that feels completely responsible. The second one is the killer. And the last one is the mistake people pay real money to make. Mistake number 1, sealing the van airtight. The temperature drops on your first cold night, you feel a draft, and out comes the tape, the towels stuffed in gaps, the covers over every vent. It feels resourceful. It feels like taking care of your home. What you've actually built is a sealed chamber where 2 lungs are pumping out a liter or 2 of water with no exit. And by morning, the ceiling is wet, the sleeping bag is clammy, and water is literally running down the inside of the doors. Worse, some people keep doing it for weeks while the moisture works its way into the foam and the wood, where it never dries out by noon. The people who survive winters in vans do the exact opposite of sealing up. They control airflow instead of eliminating it. A van needs to breathe more in winter, not less, because cold outside air, once it warms up inside, is exactly the dry air you want. If you remember one sentence from this whole video, make it this one. A sealed van is a wet van, but a sealed van will only ruin your mattress. This next mistake can end your life before sunrise. Mistake number 2, unvented propane heat. The little portable propane heaters are everywhere in the van world because they're cheap and they throw real warmth. But burning propane creates water as a chemical byproduct, and it's not a small amount. Work through a 20-pound tank and you've released more than a gallon of water into your living space, invisibly as vapor. People run these heaters all evening, then wonder why the van drips all night when the heater itself was the humidifier. And that's the lesser problem. In a poorly ventilated van, any flame-based heater can also produce carbon monoxide, which you cannot see or smell. And people die in vehicles this way every single winter, in ordinary parking lots, in ordinary towns. If a propane heater is genuinely all you have, it runs only with real ventilation, 2 openings, never while you sleep, and never without a working battery carbon monoxide detector mounted at head height near the bed. Among people who've lived in vehicles for years, that detector is considered as basic as a spare tire. The next mistake won't kill you. It just guarantees that when your van starts dying, you'll be the last one to know. Mistake number 3, never looking at the hidden zones. Mold in a van almost never starts where you can see it. It starts behind the wall panels where warm air meets cold bare metal, under the mattress on the plywood, inside the cabinets against the outer wall, under the rubber floor mats, and up in the corners of the headliner. By the time you can smell it, it's been growing for weeks. The habit that saves vans is a monthly inspection. Once a month, mattress up, look at the platform, pull one wall panel, or at least shine a flashlight behind it. Open the cabinets against the cold wall, put your hand flat on the back surface, and feel for damp. Peel back a floor mat corner, 10 minutes of checking, and you catch a wet patch when it's a wipe and dry problem instead of a rip everything out problem. The van will warn you early. You just have to look where it whispers. But suppose you look and you find it, a black patch, growing, because what you do in the next 10 minutes decides whether you kill it or feed it. Mistake number 4, fighting mold the wrong way. The instinct is bleach, and on a hard, non-porous surface like glass or bare metal, bleach is fine. But on wood, on fabric, on foam, bleach mostly kills the surface growth and leaves the roots alive inside the material, and the water in the bleach solution can actually feed the regrowth. On porous surfaces, plain white vinegar does a better job of killing mold down into the material. Sprayed on, left for an hour, scrubbed, and then, this is the part people skip, dried completely with heat and airflow. And material that's genuinely colonized, a moldy mattress, rotted panel board, soak, insulation, doesn't get clean. It gets removed and replaced because you cannot unmold foam. The other half of this mistake is masking. Air fresheners, incense, scented sprays layered over that musty smell. The smell is information. It's your van telling you where the water is. Kill the source of the moisture first, using everything from the first half of this video, then treat the mold. Do it in the other order, and the patch comes back with reinforcements. Which brings us to the final mistake, the one I said people pay for. Some of the most expensive van builds on the internet are rotting right now because of it. Mistake number 5, the wrong insulation. Fluffy fiberglass bats, the pink stuff from house construction, stuffed against the bare metal walls of a van, along with old blankets and anything else absorbent. In a house, that material lives inside a dry wall cavity. In a van, it sits directly against cold steel that sweats, and fibrous insulation soaks up that condensation like a towel and holds it against the metal in the dark, which is close to a laboratory recipe for mold and rust. The other version is plastic sheeting, stapled up as a vapor barrier, which in a van usually ends up trapping moisture against the wall instead of blocking it. The materials that survive van life are the ones that can't absorb water. Closed cell foam board, spray foam, sealed foil-faced panels, and remember the woman in Minneapolis from the start of this video. 2 winters, no insulation at all, maximum ventilation instead, and her bare metal walls stayed cleaner than builds, costing more than her entire van. Whatever you install, the test is one question. If this material gets wet, can it dry, or will it hold the water? If the answer is hold, it does not belong against your van's skin. And when you step back, all 15 of these points are really one idea. Your van has a water budget. Breathing, cooking, wet gear, and burning fuel put water in. Ventilation, wiping, absorbers, sunshine, and moving air take water out. The people who keep vans dry on zero budget year after year aren't buying their way out of the problem. They balance that budget every single day, the same way they manage fuel or food, because they can't afford not to. A liter out for every liter in. Get that rhythm into your daily routine. Morning wipe, midday flush, vents cracked at night, and mold never gets the standing water it needs to start. The woman with the Dodge Caravan wasn't lucky. She just never let the budget slip, not once, for 2 winters. So now you know how to keep the water out of your walls. And if the money side of vehicle living is the part keeping you up at night, the Van Life Savings Manual is waiting in the description below. If this helped you, hit subscribe, because I put out street-tested vehicle living knowledge like this every week. And there is a video on your screen right now about the 7 rules people who sleep in their vehicles use to almost never get the knock on the window. It pairs with this one perfectly. Go watch it.